So who am I? Wait, oh, sorry. I sent this to my dog, I guess. She wants to be called head puppy in charge. To review, forgot to review her review. Sorry, so who am I? I'm the director of InfraOps at Addepar. If you're not aware of Addepar, we're a financial platform for managing assets for financial advisors. In June, we raised Series D, over 140 million, with 650 billion on our platform, up from 300 billion in 18 months. My background is always been in InfraOps, as I call it, security, DevOps, sysadmin, networking, etc. Excuse me. So what and why? Like 2017, we're in the promised land, right? We've fixed all the problems, we're secure, everything's going great. Well, I mean, before I got here, I was like scrolling through Twitter, reading about Bad Rabbit, PEDIA, etc. So, but how do we actually make it better? What are we doing? The fact is, security is still an outside force in most companies. They're acting as like a second QA. So reviewing configs for DevOps, reviewing code for devs, reviewing device setups, like all of our laptops actually secure, support, making sure that people are actually using user validation, etc. And the fact is, everyone has their own priorities. Security is not the default priority for most anyone except the security team. And the fact is, security teams are overworked, understaffed, undermanned. So we have to make compromises, we have to make risks, accept risks. Unfortunately, this leads to nights of this, knowing all of the risks that you have accepted. You miss things, it's inefficient. And the worst thing that happens is that the security team starts to clamor down on things. They're like, no, you can't do it. No. Respect my authority. And so then this is what it leads to. Security teams are perceived as blockers. Product teams stop asking security team. DevOps and release team are like, whatever, I got my own thing to do, et cetera, across the company. This like outside advisory, it's not working. Like we can all agree, like we're not secure. Like it just doesn't work. You can't have like security coming in as a consultant, which is what they have been doing. So introducing InfraOps. I actually first presented this at DerbyCon in 2015 with my colleague at the time, Karthik. And really, it's about a culture of security, like building security by default. And then it starts with the people. Like, it's not the processes. We're going to go through some technical things, but it's really the people, like focusing on the teams, like making sure that you have a shared vision across the teams. So that's why we called it InfraOps. It's no longer the security team, it's no longer the DevOps team, it's no longer the IT team, it's the InfraOps team, like building these tribes and connections and figuring out where we have a shared vision. The fact is, like, the DevOps team, for example, they don't want to be compromised. What they're going to have to do if they get compromised is they're going to have to take the system down, they're going to have to image it, they're going to have to spend like weeks like working with the security team to figure out what happened. It's not really their interest. The one thing that really helps is starting with the CEO, helping leadership, evangelizing security from the top. We have regular all-hands meetings, so all company meetings. Our CEO, Eric, is amazing. He understands this. and how important security is, especially in the financial industry. So just reinforcing that. Another thing, we have security-focused chat rooms, so inviting people in. Like, who are the people that you are working with on a day-to-day basis on various security problems that aren't in the security org? The most important thing is really making sure that you follow and establish like non-onerous policies. As soon as you start putting in like rigid guidelines and having to go through like checkboxes, people are gonna find a way to get around the checkboxes. They're gonna get annoyed, and yeah, they're gonna get annoyed and they're not gonna wanna do it. Unfortunately, failures are bound to happen, and you have to accept that. Maybe it's not in security, maybe it's in uptime, maybe it's in something else, but they're going to happen. You know this. So, what are we doing? We're focusing on building the bots to help us. The fact is, people can't review everything all the time. Like, you need to find the processes, you need to find the concerns, the risks that you have, and start verifying that what you think is true is actually true. One way for this is config management. If you want to use Puppet, if you want to use Chef, if you want to use Ansible, if you want to roll your own, Salt, Jamf for Macs. Windows has a ton of different, you could go group policy, but making sure that you are using config management. The configs management always wins. You make a change, the config comes back in and puts the right thing in. Someone breaks in, they try to make a change, configs come back and put everything back in. And this is really what we're talking about on bringing like DevOps to security, right? It's the build, test, deploy, repeat. It's the dev version, you test, you build something, you're like, did we do it right? Let's test it. Can we do automated testing? Can we deploy it? Now that it's deployed, is it actually what we think it's doing? And just iterating on that process. Python is your friend. It's a really awesome snake. There's a ton of amazing libraries. You can write a ton of very powerful things and not very many lines of code. These are some awesome books for security. Even the Learn Python. There's a ton of courses online. One of my favorite things in Black Hat Python talks about using GitHub as a command and control server. It's really fun and interesting stuff. Monitor everything. This is really what DevOps is doing, right? It's testing, seeing like what's out there, figuring out like what the metrics are that you care about, and so monitor to everything. Traditionally, this has been more like a Nagios. Unfortunately, they haven't really updated since they've released in 10 or 15 years. So we switched over to Sensu, has APIs, has some really interesting integrations. They have something called remediators. So you can figure out like, oh, this log is filling up. Well, let's automatically check for that, truncate it, copy it, zip it, whatever. But have like these automated checks. The other thing is figuring out what you can automate. So there's a ton of stuff in your infrastructure, in your applications. Detect changes in your production environment. Does your view of your production environment actually align with what is out there? There's a ton of tools that can help you as well. Tenable, the new Nessus, running like local agents, sends it back to the cloud, can do remote scans for you, can do local scans with credentials. You can roll your own with Nmap, Nmap's network mapping tool. Qualys, great for checking SSL, making sure that your SSL is what you think it is. Scan yourself. Do you actually know what's out there? Equifax didn't. There's a ton of services that like they were running that they didn't actually know they were running. Like scan everything. Like, don't trust, like, oh, well, I know we have these domain names. Like, go out to your DNS, be like, tell me the domain names that we have. Especially in this view of elasticity of AWS, things come up, things go down. You destroy things. Did you destroy everything? Did you delete the DNS name? Did you delete the IP? Does your DNS name now point to someone else's IP? Like, these things are elastic, right? So scan everything. So this is some basic code that we're using. We're 100% on AWS, completely cloud-based. And these few lines get all IPs and domains from Route 53. Like, this is how powerful like Python is. When we started, what we had was a bunch of cron scripts running on this server and that server, and one person would put them in cron.d, someone else would put them in a cron tab, and they would put them in a root user, or they would put them in a unprivileged user, or they'd run them in their own account and forget to move it. And so what we did was, like, I don't know where everything is. I mean, I could go and look, but we centralized on using Jenkins. So Jenkins, traditionally like more of a build tool, but what we're using it for is amazing for just like cron jobs. Like, these things run like every day. If you want to get like crazy with them, you can link jobs, like send artifacts across to new jobs. You can see what actually happened. Like, the logs are right there. You can put them in tabs. You can have like different tabs for different users. So if you have the dev side and they just want to see their builds, you have a security tab, etc. Again, validate that they are your IPs. Are they your IPs? I'm just going to skip this one. This is one of my former coworkers. I think it was a month in or so. We were running Elk Stack 3 years ago. It wasn't really Elk Stack at the time. I don't know if you guys use Elk, Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana. It was more like Elasticsearch and Logstash and Kibana, so like 3 different things. So you need to figure out your buy versus build strategy. You can build it, or you can buy it, and that's what we ended up doing. We moved it to Sumo Logic. They've made a ton of strides, automated dashboards like already built in. You don't have to create them from scratch. They're doing a ton of stuff with security. They have alerting. But there's a ton of options out here. Maybe you're already running Splunk, but send all the logs and figure out what story your logs are actually trying to tell you. So again, dashboards, we monitor for failed logins. Our SecOps team has like a dashboard where they can go and see like what's going on with the system like automatically. Bug bounty. This has been huge for us. Like run a program. Make sure you follow up with it. You need like to dedicate resources to it. You are getting free resources. You may have to pay. But you need to listen to it and act on it. I don't know if you heard the latest from Equifax, but 6 months before they were hacked, they were told that they had services running. There was a service that anyone could just go and just query everything. It wasn't even the Apache like problem. It was just a service that they forgot that was out there open to the public. So you need to dedicate resources to this. You need to respond to the hackers themselves, to the researchers. Make sure that you are following up with them. So Elevate security. And really, you can use Elevate. It's a brand new startup based out of Oakland from Masha Sedova, Robert Fly, building a security awareness program at Salesforce. And really, it really comes back to the people. Like, all the tools that we went through, these are like things that you can do, things that your technical team can do, but you have to have the team that wants to go out there and find it. Like your DevOps team, like they know the infrastructure, so they should be able to know how to secure the infrastructure. Maybe you pair them with someone that knows more about security. It's really the most important thing. Like the more I come back to this, like it's really about building the culture, like getting the people together, like finding out what the shared vision is. Like maybe it's not like directly security, but security does impact their life. So we are hiring, constantly hiring, if you know anyone or if you yourself are looking. I think we have about 60 open positions in three offices, Mountain View, Salt Lake, and New York. Nope, that's not me. That's me. You can find me on Twitter, DanT24, Trevor Friet, #InfraOps. Any questions?